interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Hey, so I know that we're supposed to be doing Quick Tip Tuesday today since it is Tuesday, but I figured we're gonna step on the bandwagon and talk about the Sony A7R Mark IV. More specifically, why you should not buy it for video. This is not a video camera by any means. Yes, it does have video features. Yes, it does shoot in 4K, but it is not optimized for video. Sony did not intend this camera to be a video camera. This camera is a photography camera. That's why it's boasting 61 megapixels. Think about a couple years ago when the A7 II was announced. That camera had a couple variations. It had the Sony A7S Mark II and then the Sony A7R II. Sony made this easy. A7R is meant for photos, the A7S is meant for video. And that really reflects in the camera itself and what you get. If you're mostly a photographer and you wanna do some video, then maybe this camera is for you. 61 megapixels is insane. No one is using all of that. You can print out a photo and slap it on the side of a building and you're still gonna have resolution to spare. It's really class leading, and the only other company doing something similar is Panasonic, and they only have 47 megapixels. When you compare Sony to Panasonic, it's just not there. Panasonic is the #1 company for video, and Sony is #2. You know, I'm saying this as a Sony shooter. I believe in Sony products, obviously, because I own them. But when it gets to that price range, this camera, the body alone is $3,500. This isn't the end-all be-all camera. This isn't the top-tier video camera. If you're gonna go ahead and invest $3,500, this isn't the investment to make. Your money could be better spent over at Panasonic, unfortunately. And that's just the nature of the camera, and that's the nature of the R. That's kind of what the R is. The R isn't a video camera. Later on in the year, hopefully, the Sony A7S III is gonna be the way to go. It is gonna be class leading, and that is gonna be the video camera to get. Anyone that's getting this camera strictly for video is kind of a dumb. It's true, you can go over to Panasonic and get something that's a lot better, and you can get a lot more image quality. Just for a comparison's sake, I'm talking about why you shouldn't buy this camera for video, but I haven't really talked about any of the video specs and exactly why, what makes this camera not a good investment for video. But we're gonna go over that right now. So when you're shooting in 4K, Sony actually claims that this camera shoots in 6K and then down samples it to 4K, and this should produce really nice, crispy 4K video. With that being true, the 4K video coming out of this camera should look better than any Sony camera in this group. 4K video with the Sony A7R IV should look miles better than 4K video with the Sony A7 III. So you are only able to get 4K video at 24 and 30 frames per second, and that is going to be recorded in 8-bit with S-Log 2 or 3 or HLG. You can go into Super 35 mode, which is going to give a 1.2 crop at 30 frames per second and a 1.1 crop at 24 frames per second. But then you are able to max out your bit rate at 100 megabits per second. Impressive. Depending on which one comes first, this one might come before the RX 107. But this is the first time that Sony is implementing the eye tracking within video. So you're gonna get even crispier 4K video, and you're gonna have miles better improvements when it comes to autofocus, because it's gonna be focusing on the eyes, and that's where you need the focus at. So autofocus is gonna be key. This seems good. These are really good specs until you start looking at its competitors. For example, I'm using a Sony A6400. I can record in 4K video at 24 frames per second with a bit rate of 100 megabytes per second. Is that not what the Sony A7R IV is doing? The A6400 is a third of the price of this camera, and you're getting very similar video specs. The only difference here is in-body image stabilization and that eye autofocus tracking within the video and stuff like that. But it gets crazy when you go over to Panasonic, because with Panasonic, you're able to get 60 frames per second in 4K, and then you're able to film 10-bit video with 4K. So imagine that resolution, imagine the quality that you're able to get. So why would you buy something that just doesn't compete with what's at the top of the market when you're spending $3,500? If you are in video, this camera just is not the one. If you're in the Sony ecosystem, then you'll have better luck with spending $2,000 and getting the Sony A7 III, or waiting a couple of months for the Sony A7S III. If you're a photographer, however, then this is the best camera that you can get. It is worth mentioning that Sony A7R IV comes with this hot shoe, and with it you can buy this specialized microphone that Sony is going to be selling. So with this microphone, you're going to be able to record digital audio. So normally the way that audio works, this is with a majority of things, you record an analog signal, and then that analog signal is converted to digital, which then has to be converted to analog later on. With this new microphone and the Sony A7R IV, you're able to skip that step and you're able to record digital audio. So you skip the analog to digital conversion thing that normally has to happen, and you're going straight to digital. So you're able to reduce some of the noise and get a higher quality audio. I figured that was just worth mentioning, and it wouldn't hurt to add that in here. But that's all I have for you today. Yeah, okay, cool. Let me know your thoughts on the Sony A7R IV in the comments below. What camera are you using? What video camera do you think is top tier? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you like the content, and come back in a couple days when I talk about some normal stuff. Okay, cool? Yeah.